and they said no one survived 7 days in his mansion, but I did. My name is Amara, and if you're watching this, I survived something no one was supposed to survive. 6 days ago, I received a letter. No sender, no address, just 5 words written in red ink. See you in 7 days. This is not a ghost story, it's a story about choices, desperation, and what happens when you accept help from the wrong kind of man. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. 3 months ago, I married a man old enough to be my father, a 60-year-old millionaire. I thought it was a solution. I thought it was safe. I was wrong. On day 5, I discovered why 13 girls before me had vanished. And by day 7, I realized some men don't just want a wife. They want to consume you, literally. This is the story of the worst decision I ever made, and the 7 days that changed my life forever. Why did I marry a man I barely knew? What drove me to risk my life for money? And what secrets hide behind the doors of a house no one dares enter? In this mansion, every hallway whispered danger, every shadow felt alive, and every rule I was given hid a secret darker than I could imagine. By the end of this story, you'll understand why some wealth comes at a price no one should pay, and why I check every mirror before I sleep. I grew up in Lagos, in a home where laughter was free but money was never enough. My father sold spare parts in the market and often disappeared for days, chasing debts that never came back. My mother cleaned houses in the rich part of town. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and somehow that made the small rooms and the broken fan feel like home. I dreamed of finishing school, becoming a nurse, maybe saving enough to move us into a better apartment. But the year my mother fell sick, every dream I had started to collapse under hospital bills. I had dreams, small ones, but mine. I wanted to finish school, maybe become a nurse, lift my family from struggle. But life had other plans. The doctor's voice was calm when he said the treatment would cost 4 million naira. I nodded as if I understood, but all I heard was the slow breaking of my world. My father looked at me with eyes already full of surrender. That night I sat on our balcony and counted the stars, wondering which one I'd have to sell to save her. 2 days later, my phone rang. The voice on the other end was deep, careful, deliberate. "Amara Okafor," he asked. "My name is Chijioke Adeyemi." I had heard the name before. He was an oil tycoon, older than my father, a man who owned more houses than I had pairs of shoes. He said he could pay for my mother's surgery, clear my father's debts, even sponsor my education abroad. The catch: he wanted me to marry him, but only for 7 days, 1 week. After that, I would be free. At first, I laughed. Who marries a stranger for money? But desperation has a way of turning impossible choices into the only options. I had 48 hours to decide. 48 hours to choose my mother's life over my own comfort. I should have hung up. I should have said no. But desperation makes you rewrite what's right and wrong. 48 hours later, I stood in front of a mirror in a borrowed white dress, watching a stranger staring back at me. I signed the papers, wore a white dress, and walked into a mansion that shimmered with wealth and stank of danger. The mansion was like something out of a dream or a warning. It sat on a hill outside town, surrounded by mist and guarded by silence. The walls glistened with wealth, but there was no warmth in them. When I walked through the doors, every servant lowered their gaze as if I carried bad luck on my skin. Every room was spotless, but but cold. Every shadow seemed alive. That night I couldn't sleep. The air was thick, heavy, like the whole house was holding its breath. Somewhere down the corridor, a grandfather clock ticked steadily, counting down to something I couldn't see. And I soon realized the rules weren't just rules, they were warnings. Rule 1, never enter the study. Rule 2, take your daily vitamin. Rule 3, never ever open the basement door. I thought I could handle it. I thought I was smart enough to survive. I was wrong. The first night in the mansion, I couldn't sleep. The air was heavy, thick with something I couldn't name. Every tick of the grandfather clock sounded like a countdown to something. Chijioke never stayed in the same room twice. His footsteps echoed through the halls at odd hours. Sometimes I thought I saw shadows moving ahead of him, before he even appeared. I told myself it was paranoia. I told myself it was the stress. Chijioke was polite, almost gentle, but there was something about him I couldn't name. His eyes never seemed to blink long enough, and sometimes when he smiled, I felt my stomach twist. The next morning, a maid named Ngozi brought me breakfast and a small bottle labeled vitamin D. She said, "Sir insists you take it every morning." I nodded, though something inside me whispered not to. By the third day, I had learned the rules. Never enter the study, never skip your daily vitamin, and never ever open the basement door. I didn't ask why. I just memorized them the way a prisoner memorizes the sound of his chains. But by day 3, I started noticing other things. The meat Chijioke ate, raw, still warm, dripping red. The mirrors, why did they reflect a different shape when I passed? And the basement, locked, forbidden to see me, started calling to me like a heartbeat I could hear but not touch. The study door fascinated me. Every time I walked by, I felt a faint warmth on the handle as if it had just been touched. On day 3, I broke the first rule by accident, entering the study while looking for something to write. The room was lined with books, but not just books. There were journals, old cracked leather with names written in gold ink. 13 of them, all women. I opened one and froze. Each page was a diary entry dated decades apart, yet each ended the same way. Day 7. I closed the book and felt a chill run through my spine. All of them dated over decades. Names crossed out, some circled in red. I froze and then I heard it. A soft whisper, almost a hiss, "Oh, you shouldn't be here." I ran out, my heart hammering, telling myself it was imagination. But deep down I knew the mansion had a memory, and I was trespassing in it. On the 4th day, curiosity won. Inside I found shelves lined with journals. Then a whisper brushed my ear. "You shouldn't be here." I turned. Nothing. But when I looked back, one of the books had fallen open on its own. By day 4, even the servants seemed afraid. They avoided my eyes, whispered in corners, and crossed themselves whenever Chijioke passed. I realized they knew what I didn't yet. That night I found a letter tucked under my pillow. No signature, just 3 words, "Do not open." My curiosity, or maybe my foolish bravery, would lead me to the basement the very next day. And that's when I realized it wasn't just a mansion, it was a trap. And the man I married, Bosu, wasn't entirely human. By day 5, everything I had believed about survival, wealth, and family would be challenged in ways I could never imagine. If this story has your heart racing, comment, "I'm still watching." Let's see who's truly following till the end. Day 5 began like any other. But I couldn't shake the pull of the basement. The locked door called to me like a heartbeat. Every instinct screamed to stay away, but every instinct was wrong. I found a key hidden beneath a loose tile in the hallway. My hands shook as I inserted it into the lock. The door creaked open, releasing a chill that cut through the mansion like ice. Inside, darkness, thick, suffocating darkness, but as my eyes adjusted, I saw them. 13 girls, alive, floating in tanks filled with dark liquid. Their eyes moved, darting around like trapped animals. They were quiet, but their fear was deafening. And then I saw him, Chijioke. He wasn't eating, not food. He was consuming something else, something I couldn't explain. His eyes met mine, and in that instant I understood. I hadn't married a man. I had married a predator who had been collecting girls like me for decades. Centuries, maybe. I had to escape. I couldn't scream. The walls seemed alive, ready to trap any sound. I backed out slowly, trying not to alert him. Every shadow felt like it moved closer. Every creak of the floor sounded like a warning. By the time I reached my room, I was trembling, drenched in sweat, but running wasn't enough. I realized survival meant understanding the rules of this house, and more importantly, understanding him. Day 6, I observed him. The way he moved, the rituals he performed, even the way he ate, it all pointed to something unnatural. He was patient, meticulous, and terrifyingly clever. I discovered small loopholes, servants who ignored certain rules, weak locks I could exploit, hidden passages behind bookshelves. Each discovery was a piece of a puzzle that could save my life or end it. That night, I wrote a plan. One mistake could cost me everything. One step wrong and I'd become the next name in his journals. But I had no choice. I couldn't wait for fate. I had to fight for it. By the end of day 6, I knew I had to face him. I had to confront the darkness, confront the truth of what he was, and escape no matter what it took, because tomorrow would be day 7. The day everything would change. Day 7, the day I had feared and yet somehow knew was inevitable. My plan was simple: confront him, uncover the truth, and escape before he could react. I descended into the basement one final time. The tanks were still there, 13 girls staring blankly through. But something was different. Their eyes, they weren't entirely human anymore. Something had changed them. Something ancient, something hungry had taken root. And then I saw him. Not just Chijioke, but what he truly was. His face shifted, stretched, eyes glowing like fire. The man I had married had been wearing a mask of humanity for centuries. A monster that fed on life itself, collecting girls like trophies, feeding on fear and blood to sustain his unnatural existence. I froze. My heart pounded. The mansion seemed alive, the walls closing in. And then I realized the truth that made my blood run cold. He hadn't just been collecting girls, he was harvesting something inside them. Their essence, their vitality, their souls. Everything I had seen before, the mirrors that blinked, the shadows, the raw meat. It all made sense now. The mansion, the rules, even the servants' fear, they were all part of the system that kept him alive, kept him human, at least in appearance. I had to escape, but escape meant facing him, and facing him meant risking everything. My life, my sanity, everything I had fought to protect. I used the passages I had discovered. I avoided the main halls. The corridors stretched longer than before, the air turning colder with every step. I moved like a shadow, a ghost in the mansion, and finally I found the exit, a hidden door leading to the gardens. I reached the garden door, the same door I had seen in my dreams, and pushed. It opened easily, too easily. Outside, the fog rolled in waves. I turned once, saw his shadow standing in the doorway, and then I ran until my legs gave out. I ran into the night, not daring to look back. Behind me, the mansion loomed like a tomb. Behind me, he waited, and I knew deep down he would never stop hunting. Weeks later, I woke in a clinic miles away. I told my parents everything, and they reported to the police. The police searched the mansion but found no trace of tanks, no journals, no servants. Just empty rooms and dust. My family was safe. My mother's surgery was paid for through an anonymous account. But I could never shake the feeling that he let me go. Now, 3 months later, every night I check the mirrors before I sleep. Sometimes when I look too long, I see faces behind mine. I tell myself it's just guilt. Maybe I survived because he wanted me to. Maybe I'm just another part of his story. But I'm alive, and for now, that's enough. I survived. But 13 girls before me didn't. And the lessons I learned in those 7 days, some wealth, some power, comes at a price too high to pay. And some monsters wear the face of a man you think you can trust. I never thought I would make it out alive, but I did. I walked away from the mansion, from the life I had been promised, from the illusions of wealth and comfort. The memory of the mansion, the faces of those 13 girls, and the man, or monster, I had married, they never left me, and yet surviving taught me something invaluable. Life isn't about chasing money or escaping hardship by taking shortcuts. True strength comes from courage, from facing the impossible and refusing to surrender, even when every instinct tells you to run. I learned to trust my instincts, to see beyond appearances, and to understand that some dangers wear the most convincing masks. And above all, I learned that survival is not just physical. It's emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. Some might call me lucky, some might call it fate, but I know this. I survived because I refused to give up. And sometimes that's enough. And that's when I understood. Not every loss is the end. Some are the beginning of something greater. The mansion, the terror, the monster, it could not define me. Only I could define myself. And so I live, cautiously, bravely, and with a story to tell. A story of fear, courage, and the price we pay for love and family. What would you have done in my place? Could you have survived 7 days in a mansion filled with secrets, shadows, and a monster disguised as a man? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know where you're watching from and how you think you would have acted. And if this story left you on the edge of your seat, wait until you hear what happens in our next tale. A story of lost love, betrayal, and secrets that span generations. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world or yourself.